Now, before we get into this October outlook of what we could expect for the month ahead, hard to believe it's already October, by the way. Where does the time go? But as a disclaimer here, before we get started, please take this forecast with a grain of salt, as anything over a week out is virtually impossible to forecast, as we cannot predict the future. So please, again, take this forecast with a grain of salt. Now, before we get into the forecast, let's go ahead and get into the indices behind what shapes our weather here for the month ahead. Now, there's three conditions that we take a look at. I know there's much more than the QBO, NAO, and ENSO, but basically the QBO is high altitude winds over the equator, which flips between easterly and westerly phase every 2 years, which tweaks the jet streams and influences storms. The NAO is the North Atlantic Oscillation, brings pressure swings in the Atlantic. Positive NAO brings milder weather conditions in the East Coast, and a negative NAO usually means colder outbreaks, which we could come into here in late October. Now, the ENSO phase, much of y'all already know this one. I beat the dead horse on the ENSO pattern pretty much in every seasonal outlook video, but basically it's the sea surface temperatures out there in the Pacific Ocean near the equator, which shifts from El Nino, which means warmer waters, La Nina means colder waters, and sometimes we come into what's called ENSO neutral, which means neither warm or cool waters. Now, how does this influence our October weather? Well, you can see the ENSO phase is currently neutral with a slight cooling in the Pacific, which means that there's a high chance, right around a 60 to 70% chance, of shifting to a weak La Nina by mid to late October, which could result in a major cool down here in the eastern part of the country here as we head towards the end of the month. Now, how does this relate to the United States and North America in general? I know most of y'all wonder, how does the water out there near the equator and Pacific influence our weather? You'd think that it would influence Hawaii more than it would us. Well, how ENSO neutral into weak La Nina works is basically it could bring drier conditions to the southwest and southern plains, and winter weather conditions to the Pacific Northwest and the northern Rockies, with slighter cooler temperatures in the north and warmer than average overall in much of the central and eastern U.S., which we'll get into the temperature outlook here in a little bit. Now, as far as the QBO goes, this one's a little bit more confusing, but basically we're in an easterly phase, which is more of a negative phase with winds descending. And this October, the easterly phase is expected to strengthen, which means that here in North America and in the United States in general, it may weaken the polar vortex. Yes, you heard that right. We can have the polar vortex affecting our weather in October. It's not clickbait, which leads to more of a variable jet stream and occasional cold snaps in the northern U.S. and even Canada, which could amplify the La Nina conditions for cooler, stormier patterns in the Midwest and East. Now, we all know that September was very quiet, and I'm thinking that October could be a very volatile month when it comes to severe weather anyway. Now, the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, currently in a neutral to slightly positive phase. This October is going to be likely neutral to weakly positive early with potential for variability later. No strong negative phase has been signaled just yet. How does the NAO affect the US and North America? Well, positive phase usually favors warmer and milder conditions in the eastern United States and even Canada, with less storms, which could mean above average temps in the Northeast and reduced cold risks. So basically, what this is saying is that we could have a cold snap in late October, although the beginning of the month could potentially be warm. So now that I've most likely confused y'all with all this jargon, let's go ahead and get into the long-range models. And again, as a disclaimer, please take this with a grain of salt. But first, we're going to take a look at the temperature anomalies. Then we'll take a look at the precipitation anomalies. I'll show y'all the expert analysis at the Climate Prediction Center. Then I'll give you my thoughts of what we could expect. Now, the temperature anomalies and precipitation anomalies usually show us above and below average precipitation and temperature trends. First, we're taking a look at the temperature trends here. The reds, the above average, blue, and the greens are the below average. And it's looking like to start off October, we're going to be relatively mild here in the central and a little bit of the eastern U.S., while the East Coast, down here into Florida, all the way out here into the western part of the country, is going to be heading into a below average pattern. Now, expect more of the country, at least more of the eastern part, to be above average and more of the western part being below average. Now, this is going to shift as we head into the end of the month, as it's looking like much of the country is going to be heading into a way below average temperature pattern, especially down here from Texas up into Missouri. But it's looking like here from Colorado up into the northern plains could be remaining and above normal temperatures. And it's looking like to end October and heading into November, it's looking to be much of the same story, although a little bit more of the southern plains is heading into an above average trend. So what do the experts have to say? Well, they're showing us that much of the country is going to be remaining above average for the whole entire month of October. Now, equal chances means either above or below average. I'm thinking that the beginning of the month is going to be very, very warm here in the central part of the country and a little bit of the eastern part of the country as well. And then we're going to be heading into a very, very cold pattern as we head into the end of the month. That's why it's showing equal chances here, because I'm thinking the beginning of the month is going to be warm, and then we're going to trend cool as we head towards the middle and end of the month. And then at the end of the month, the northern plains down into the southern plains is going to be above average. So basically, the eastern part of the country is going to be warm to start, western part of the country is going to be cool to start. And then the end of the month, the whole entire country is going to be heading into a below average pattern, except for the northern plains down into the southern plains. But on average, I would stick with what the Climate Prediction Center is showing us, which is the whole entire country is going to be remaining in an above average temperature pattern, which means we could be coming in on a late fall here across the lower 48. Now, what about precipitation? We have been dealing with a very quiet September, and will October be that way? I'm thinking that October is going to be a very volatile month. And we can see here to start off October, it's looking like the eastern part of the country is going to be very dry, as well as the western part of the country. Sort of spot on with what the temperatures were showing us, which was very cool out west, very cool here in the southeast, but very warm in the central part of the country, which could result in severe weather, by the way. Fall is our second time of the year where we see severe weather, and it's looking like we could have a severe weather pattern as we head into the beginning parts of October. So you can see above average precipitation is expected. Now, of course, expect this to change as we head into the middle and especially the end of the month, as we're going to be heading from above average precipitation and an active weather pattern potentially to a very quiet weather pattern potentially as we head into the end of the month, where it's looking like dry conditions could be in store here in the central and really eastern part of the country, while the west coast is going to be heading into an above average precipitation pattern. And of course, the further we go out, more uncertainty there is. But basically, what I'm expecting as far as precipitation goes is, if we trust the Climate Prediction Center, they're showing us that from Texas up here into the Ohio Valley, we could be in a below average pattern, as it's looking like the whole entire month of October It'll be very dry here out east, except for down here by Florida. Now, the northwest is going to be above average, and I'm thinking the western part of the country is going to be heading into a, on average, above normal precipitation pattern for the month of October, although the beginning of the month is going to be a little bit dry here out west and out east. But I'm thinking overall, although it shows equal chances of either above or below average, I'm thinking overall that the beginning of the month is going to be dry, but the middle and end of the month is going to be above normal as far as precipitation goes, which could result in some severe weather here in the central part of the country, as we're going to be dealing with a volatile temperature pattern, as we're going to be dealing with warm temperatures to start off October, and then we're going to trend cooler as we head into the middle and end of the month, which results obviously in an active weather pattern. So basically, I'm thinking that the eastern part of the country is going to be dry and hot for really much of the month of October until the end of the month, where it's looking like we're going to be dry and cool to end October. Out west, I think on average it's going to be wetter and cooler than normal, but the beginning of the month is going to be cool and dry, so be aware of that. In the central part of the country, I think it's sort of a mixed bag, as I'm thinking it's going to be hot one week, cool the next, and then I think we're going to stable out and remain cool, as we're going to have an active weather pattern bringing severe weather week after week here in the central part of the country. But of course, please take this with a grain of salt, as this can and will change. But on average, if we stick to the Climate Prediction Center, they're showing us that much of the country is going to be warmer than normal for the month of October. It's not going to be feeling like fall, unfortunately, unless you live here in the Central Plains. As I said earlier, one week we're going to be hot, the next week we're going to be cool, and the next week we're going to be hot, vice versa, which could result in severe weather. And like I showed y'all just a few minutes ago, the precipitation, northwest going to be above average, as well as down here by Florida, but the eastern part of the country, I think, is going to be heading into a below average pattern, while the western part of the country is head towards the end of the month, I think, is going to be in a above normal precipitation pattern. So it's pretty spot on with what the indices are showing us, which is a stormy pattern in the Midwest and East, as well as a cold snap in the eastern part of the country as we head towards the end of the month. So if you're a fall lover, basically you're going to have to wait till the end of the month to soak in in these nice cool temperatures, as it's looking like we could have a late start to fall, as it's going to be feeling more like summertime here for really much of October, and prepare for some severe weather, as fall is our second most active severe weather season, at least compared to springtime, so definitely prepare for that if you live in the central part of the country. So now I cover what we could expect for the month of October. Let's go ahead and get into some top 5 fun facts for this upcoming month. Starting off with the daylight heist of the year. Imagine the sun playing a sneaky trick. October robs us of more daylight than any other month in the northern hemisphere, clocking in at a whopping 1 hour and 38 minutes less by Halloween compared to the first of the month. This rapid plunge happens because Earth's tilt accelerates the shortening of days post-autumnal equinox, turning cozy evenings into early dusks that feel like nature's gentle nudge toward hibernation. It's why that afternoon hike suddenly needs headlamps, and it's a subtle reminder of how October bridges the lazy summer haze to winter's sharp edge. Now, red leaves, nature's sunny secret. Ever wonder why some trees blush fiery red while others fade to lazy yellow? It's all about October sunlight. Trees bathed in direct rays produce anthocyanins, those vibrant red pigments, as a sunscreen against intense autumn light before the big chill hits. This lesser-known chemical peaks mid-month when cooler nights trap sugars in leaves, turning foliage into a patchwork, basically, of reds and yellows. So if you ever walk through the forest on crunchy leaves and see reds and yellows, this is why. Basically because some trees get more sunlight than others, and the ones that get the red pigment are the winners, and the ones that get the yellows are basically the losers, and the red leaves typically stay on there longer and protect themselves, while the yellow ones typically fall off and are the losers of the trees, basically. Now the next one here more relates to what we're going to be experiencing here in October, which is called St. Luke's Little Summer. Around October 18th, a meteorological phenomenon known as St. Luke's Little Summer often brings a brief period of unseasonably warm, dry weather to parts of the northern hemisphere, attributed to persistent high-pressure systems. This warming trend can elevate temperatures by 10 to 15 degrees above normal for the season for several days. This anomaly, named for the feast day of St. Luke, underscores October's capacity for unexpected warmth amid its cooling trajectory. Basically, St. Luke's Day is like Indian summer pretty much, and we are going to be coming in on this in October. Most likely not October 18th though. I'm thinking it's going to be earlier than that. That's why I put the lady on the beach here, because most of y'all are actually going to be on the beach probably during this time frame in the beginning of October, because it's going to be feeling more like summer than fall, drinking your pumpkin spice latte. So enjoy it while it lasts, because it ain't going to last, as it's looking like the end of the month is going to be really, really cool out there, and I think we're going to be freezing our tuchuses off. So this is a little fun fact about October and why it's going to be a little bit warmer than normal. It's normal. Don't think it's not, because it is. Now the next one here, the Orionid meteor shower visibility. The Orionid meteor shower, peaking in late October, is a celestial event enhanced by October's typically clear, low humidity nights. Originating from debris left over by Halley's Comet, the shower produces up to 20 meteors per hour, traveling at 41 miles per second. The crisp, stable air of mid-autumn optimizes viewing conditions, particularly in the pre-dawn hours, making October a prime month for astronomical observation. Now last one here, early ice formation benchmark. In colder regions of the northern hemisphere, October marks the onset of thin ice formation on ponds, with a traditional gauge being ice thick enough to support a duck's weight, which is approximately 2 to 3 inches. This phenomenon, driven by radiative cooling on clear nights, serves as an early indicator of sustained cold and the approach of winter. It reflects the month's role as a threshold between autumn's variability and winter's consistency. So there's some 5 fun facts you most likely never knew. Now onto some interesting October folklore, starting off with another duck story, basically the duck's prognostic. A 19th century English proverb states, "Ice in October that will bear up a duck foretells a winter as wet as muck." This saying suggests that the formation of ice strong enough to support a duck's weight in early October signals a forthcoming winter dominated by wet, unstable weather. Rooted in observations of early frost and atmospheric patterns, it reflects the practical meteorology of rural communities. So you can see that Basically the same as the last fun fact, with a little bit more context behind it, as it started in the 19th century. Now the next one here, the St. Calixtus Day forecast. A medieval British proverb declares if St. Calixtus Day be dry and windy, the winter will be wet, but if it be rainy and still, the harvest will be good. Tied to the feast of Pope Calixtus, this lore links mid-October weather to broader seasonal outcomes. Dry, windy conditions on October 14th were believed to presage a rainy winter, while calm, wet weather promised agricultural prosperity, illustrating historical reliance on saintly calendars for weather predictions. Next one here, St. Gal's Day assurance on October 16th. From Swiss and German Alpine traditions comes the saying, if it is fine on St. Gal's Day, it will be fine up to Christmas. The proverb associates clear, mild weather on the feast of St. Gal, a 7th century hermit, with an extended period of favorable conditions through the winter holidays. It reflects a cultural optimism rooted in observations of stable high-pressure systems in mid-October, which could be coming in on this here in the middle of October. We could be coming in on a drying pattern for really much of the month. Gnats as weather heralds. I know those gnats are very annoying this time of year, and we all love to see those gnats go away. And that's why I think most of y'all love winter, because you hate the bugs. But an American colonial proverb observes gnats in October are a sign of long, fair weather. The presence of swarming gnats in October was interpreted as an indicator of prolonged mild, dry conditions, likely due to persistent high-pressure systems, reducing wind and precipitation. This subtle omen, less prominent than other animal-based folklore, highlights the nuanced environmental cues valued by early settlers. So we could be dealing with gnats for pretty much the whole month of October here, at least out east anyway, because it's going to be nice and warm and dry here for really much of the month, at least until the end of the month anyway. The cold snap here at the end of the month is going to kill them off. Now, last one here, the frost-free full moon rule. A Scottish and New England proverb states, full moon in October without frost, no frost till the full moon in November. This lore ties the absence of frost during October's full moon, which is the hunter's moon, to a delayed onset of freezing temperatures until November's full moon. It reflects historical reliance on lunar cycles as a framework for anticipating seasonal shifts, offering a potential lens on October's climatic unpredictability. So hopefully y'all enjoyed some fun facts and folklore. Now on to some wartime weather history for the month of October. Now starting off with the fog of fratricide at Germantown in 1777. On the crisp morning of October 4th of 1777 near Philadelphia, air hung heavy with a unnatural stillness as General George Washington's Continental Army launched a daring pre-dawn assault against British forces entrenched at Germantown. What began as a symphony of coordinated strikes devolved into chaos when a sudden impenetrable fog rolled in from the Schuylkill River, blanketing the battlefield in a ghostly veil that reduced visibility to mere yards. Colonial troops, mistaking shadows for redcoats, turned their muskets on one another in a tragic volley of friendly fire. While British Commander Sir William Howe exploited the murk to regroup the counterattack, the skirmish ended in American retreat, but the fog's cruel irony not only dashed hopes of reclaiming the colonial capital, but also sowed seeds of resilience, galvanizing Washington's resolve amid the Revolution's grueling autumn campaign. And the next one here is the icy prelude to Napoleon's Moscow debacle. By mid-October of 1812, Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte's Grand Army, having scorched the Kremlin in a Pyrrhic occupation, faced the inexorable pull of retreat amid Russia's vast, unforgiving expanse. What started as unseasonably early frosts, plummeting to sub-zero nights, escalated into blizzards that clawed at the 100,000 frostbitten survivors, their leather boots cracking and uniforms icing over as supply lines crumbled under the weight of Cossack raids and Cossack pursuit. The Bersina River crossing dissolved into catastrophe when the thin ice betrayed overload pontoons, drowning thousands in the frigid torrent. This October harbinger of winter decimated the invasion force, reducing it to a ragged 40,000 by December. It not only shattered French hegemony, but reshaped Europe's geopolitical map, igniting the War of the Sixth Coalition and hastening Napoleon's downfall. The next one here is the muddy quagmire of Passchendaele of 1917, as the leaves turned gold in the scarred fields of Flanders. October of 1917 transformed the Third Battle of Ypres, known to history as Passchendaele, into a hellish tableau of unrelenting deluge. British and Allied forces under Field Marshal Douglas Haig pressed a grinding offensive against German lines. But weeks of torrential rains swelled the Yser River and churned the cratered earth into a vicious sea of mud, where soldiers drowned in shell holes and artillery pieces sank irretrievably into the mire. Over 500,000 casualties mounted in the futile slog, with the weather's merciless grip halting advances and amplifying the horror of chemical warfare and machine guns. Though the Allies captured a desolate ridge at staggering cost, the battle's legacy endures as a poignant indictment of attrition warfare, where October's rains not only buried ambitions but exposed the folly of command in the face of elemental indifference. Now in 1941 we have the Rasputitsa and the Stallblitz of Moscow. In the winning days of October 1941 during World War II, as Operation Typhoon thundered toward the Soviet capital, Adolf Hitler's Wehrmacht confronted an ancient adversary, the Russian Rasputitsa, or roadlessness, unleashed by autumn downpours that liquefied the unpaved steppe into a bottomless morass. Panzer divisions, once lightning fast, bogged down into knee-deep sludge, with early snows freezing the muck into an impassable crust that shattered under tank treads, straining fuel convoys and exposing troops to withering Red Army counterfire. Only 1 in 10 German vehicles emerged intact from this meteorological ambush, delaying the encirclement of Moscow and allowing Joseph Stalin to reinforce his defenses. The month's wrath preserved the Soviet heartland, marking a pivotal fracture in the Nazi invasion and foreshadowing the brutal winter that would claim hundreds of thousands of lives in the Eastern Front. An inexorable grind. Now we can see that the Germans and Russians were going at it in October of 1941, and the weather took a toll on the Germans. Now we can see the storm that silenced Weather Station Kurt in 1943, a couple years after Russia and Germany were going at it. Deep in the fog-bound fjords of Labrador on October 22nd of 1943, a German U-boat U-537 surfaced under cover of night to deploy a covert meteorological outpost amid the battle of the Atlantic's shadowy espionage. But as technicians scrambled to erect antennas amid the gale force winds and pounding surf, a ferocious North Atlantic storm battered the vessel, ripping away an anti-aircraft gun and flooding the hull, rendering it unable to submerge and vulnerable to Allied patrols. A compromised station dubbed Kurt transmitted falsified data for months before its 1944 rediscovery, but the Tempest's sabotage thwarted Berlin's bid for Arctic weather supremacy, inadvertently aiding Allied convoys by denying Axis forecasts. This obscure October squall underscored the war's hidden meteorological front, where control of the skies began with mastery over the sea's unpredictable rage. You can see Germany didn't fare too well in that war, really. Both World War I and World War II. Now on to some non-wartime the weather history for the month of October. Starting off with the Peshtigo Inferno's fiery scourge of 1871. On the parched evening of October 8th of 1871, amid a prolonged drought that had baked the forests of northeastern Wisconsin into a tinderbox, small brush fires coalesced under fierce winds into a colossal conflagration known as the Peshtigo Fire. Flames leaped 200 feet high, propelled by gale force gusts and temperatures soaring up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, devoured 1.5 million acres and obliterated the lumber town of Peshtigo in mere hours, where survivors sought refuge in the Postigo River as fire tornadoes whirled overhead, claiming between 1,200 to 2,500 lives. The deadliest wildfire in U.S. history, this cataclysm, coinciding with the Great Chicago Fire, exposed the perils of unchecked deforestation and erratic autumn weather, prompting early calls for forest management reforms in a nation still healing from the Civil War. Next one here, we have Hurricane Hazel's relentless assault in 1954. As dawn broke on October 15th of 1954, Hurricane Hazel, a Category 4, with sustained winds exceeding 140 miles an hour, slammed into the border between North and South Carolina near Calabash, unleashing a 17-foot storm surge that ravaged coastal communities and propelled inland with unyielding fury. Torrential rains up to 11 inches in a day swelled rivers and triggered flash floods across the Carolinas and Virginia, washing away homes, bridges, and entire neighborhoods, while the storm's rapid forward speed of about 50 miles an hour carried its wrath northward to Pennsylvania and beyond. In the United States, 95 lives were lost, with damage totaling $281 million, equivalent to billions of dollars nowadays, marking Hazel as North Carolina's most intense hurricane on record and catalyzing improvements in coastal zoning and evacuation protocols amid the post-war boom. Now, the Columbus Day Gale's Pacific Fury of 1962. Originating as the remnants of Typhoon Freda in the distant Pacific, the Columbus Day storm erupted on October 12, 1962, battering the Pacific Northwest with hurricane-force winds peaking at 170 miles an hour in coastal Oregon, uprooting ancient evergreens and shattering urban infrastructure from California to British Columbia. Power lines snapped like threads, plunging millions into darkness, while flying debris and collapsing structures turned highways into obstacle courses, with this storm's extratropical might rivaling a Category 3 hurricane in intensity. At least 46 fatalities resulted, alongside $230 million in damage, which is over $2 billion nowadays, making it the most destructive windstorm in the region's recorded history and spurring advancements in weather forecasting and building codes to withstand such mid-autumn extratropical bombs. The next one here is the perfect storms Atlantic Maelstrom 1991. Beginning as a nor'easter off Atlantic Canada on October 28th of 1991, the so-called perfect storm absorbed the remnants of Hurricane Grace in a cold front, ballooning into a hybrid behemoth with 100-foot waves and 80-mile-an-hour winds that pummeled the New England coast through Halloween. Coastal flooding inundated homes from Maine to Florida, while offshore the sword fishing vessel Andrea Gale vanished in the tumult. Its crew of 6 presumed drowned amid the churning seas that inspired a best-selling book and film. 13 lives were claimed in total, with $200 million in damage, highlighting the rare convergence of meteorological forces in late October and accelerating investments in satellite tracking and marine safety measures for an increasingly vulnerable eastern seaboard. Now, the last one here is Superstorm Sandy's coastal reckoning, which happened back in 2012. Most of y'all remember this one. On October 29th of 2012, Hurricane Sandy, downgraded to a post-tropical cyclone just before landfall near Atlantic City, New Jersey, merged into a nor'easter to unleash a 900-mile-wide fury of 80-mile-an-hour winds, record 14-foot storm surges, and a heavy snowfall inland, submerging New York City's subways and blackening out Manhattan's skyline. The hybrid storm's unprecedented size flooded tunnels, eroded beaches from the Carolinas to Maine, and ignited fires in waterlogged Queens, displacing thousands and crippling infrastructure in the densely populated Northeast. With 72 fatalities and $65 billion in damage, Sandy stands as one of the costliest disasters in American history, which prompted fortified seawalls and elevating building standards to prevent another disaster like that. Now, from facts to folklore to some weather history to some astronomical events we could look forward to here for the month of October. Now, starting off at the beginning of October, October 6th, we have the Moon-Saturn conjunction. The nearly full moon, which is going to be 98% illuminated, will pass just a few degrees from Saturn in Pisces, making for a striking pairing low in the eastern sky after sunset. Saturn will be visible to the naked eye as a bright star, and binoculars can reveal its rings The moon will also be near faint Neptune, best spotted with a telescope though. October 7th, we have the full harvest supermoon. This full moon is both the harvest moon, which is the fullest moon closest to the autumnal equinox, and a supermoon appearing about 7% larger, well she said, and 15% brighter than average due to its perigee, which is closest approach to Earth at under 225,000 miles, rises in Pisces around sunset, casting an orange glow. Perfect for photography. Note, exact timing varies by time zone. It's October 6th in some regions, but October 7th in some other regions, like the eastern part of the country, for example. October 10th through the 20th, starting off with October 10th, Moon Pleiades conjunction, a waxing gibbous moon right around 88% illuminated, cozies up to the sparkling Pleiades, Seven Sisters star cluster in Taurus. Look east after midnight for this easy naked eye sight. The cluster's blue stars contrast beautiful against the moon's glow. On October 13th, Moon Jupiter conjunction, the waning gibbous moon right around 58% illuminated, joins brilliant Jupiter in Gemini, rising in the east around midnight. Jupiter's steady shine outdoes nearby stars, and a small telescope can show its 4 largest moons. Now October 19th to 20th, nearing the end of the month, we have the Moon-Venus conjunction and Mercury-Mars pairing. A thin crescent moon right around 3% illuminated huddles with dazzling Venus in Virgo just before dawn. Venus at magnitude -3.9 will be unmistakable low in the east. Meanwhile, Mercury and reddish Mars form a close duo in Libra near horizon after sunset, challenging but rewarding with binoculars. Now at the end of the month, we have October 21st and 22nd. Orionid meteor shower peak, one of the year's best meteor showers, produced by Halley's Comet debris, peaks under ideal dark skies near the new moon. Expect up to 20 to 25 swift meteors per hour radiating from Orion, visible from midnight to dawn. Equipment is obviously needed to view this meteor shower. October 21st, we have the new moon as well, so it's going to be good to see the meteor shower because there's not going to be any moon visible. The moon slips between Earth and the sun, offering the month's darkest nights. Prime time for deep sky stargazing, including the Orionids and faint galaxies. On October 23rd, Moon Mars and Moon Mercury conjunction. A slender crescent moon, which is going to be 4% illuminated, aligns with Mars and Mercury. Libra low in the west after sunset. Mars adds a rusty hue to the scene. Now, right before Halloween, October 29th, Mercury at greatest eastern elongation. Mercury reaches its widest separation from the sun, 24 degrees east, making it easiest to spot low in the west after sunset with binoculars before it dips back toward the horizon. Now, some other astronomical events to occur in October is Saturn is going to be high overhead on most nights, Jupiter rising earlier as the month progresses, and Venus shining as the morning star. And of course, there's going to be World Space Week on October 4th through 10th, which adds educational events worldwide. If you're interested, for the best viewing, obviously check local weather conditions and use apps like Starwalk or real-time positions. So there's some interesting astronomical events you could look forward to this month. Now, there's not much data on James Webb and Hubble telescope for the month of October, but here is what James Webb and Hubble telescope found for the month of September. Starting off with the James Webb telescope, found a mysterious little red dots as potential black hole stars. On September 13th, astronomers using James Webb telescope data identified hundreds of compact, intensely red objects from the early universe, just about 500 to 700 million years after the Big Bang. Initially thought to be unusually mature galaxies, these universe breakers are now hypothesized to be a new class of objects. Massive spheres of cold gas powered by supermassive black holes at their cores resembling black hole stars. One stands out, dubbed the Cliff, is enveloped in dense hydrogen gas, suggesting rapid black hole growth. This could explain how supermassive black holes form so quickly in the universe's infancy, challenging existing models of cosmic evolution. Now, some more stuff that James Webb telescope found is atmosphere on the lava planet TOI 561b. James Webb observations confirmed a thick, long-lived atmosphere around the scorched rocky exoplanet about the size of Earth, but orbiting its star every 10 days at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Surprisingly, the atmosphere isn't just fleeting hydrogen, helium, but may include heavier elements, persisting for billions of years despite the planet's age, which is over 10 billion years old. And tidal lock. This bolsters the case for atmospheres on hot rocky worlds, but with implications for habitability studies. Another one here is nearly naked supermassive black hole in Abell 2744 QS01. Reported in early September, the James Webb Telescope spotted this rare QSAR, a supermassive black hole with minimal surrounding material, allowing unprecedented views of its accretion disk located in a massive galaxy cluster 4 billion light years away. It provides clues to black hole feedback mechanisms that regulate star formation. Next one here is the enormous star with twin jets spanning 8 light years. On September 11th, James Webb Telescope imaged a massive young star in the Lobster Nebula, ejecting bipolar jets of gas and dust over an astonishing distance, hinting at the violent processes driving star formation in dense molecular clouds. Has some water ice in a distant star system's debris disk. James Webb detected water ice in the outer disk around HD 181327, a young star 156 light years away, suggesting building blocks for planets like Earth could form in cold, distant regions of other systems. Now, the last one here is ongoing exoplanet and cosmic dawn studies. Mid-month updates include spectra from TRAPPIST-1e, searching for biosignatures and protostellar jets in star-forming regions, plus a new moon around Uranus spotted in archival data. Now, from James Webb Telescope to what Hubble Telescope found in September includes a star cluster in Large Magellanic Cloud. On September 8th, Hubble imaged a cloudy starscape in the neighboring dwarf galaxy 160,000 light years away, revealing details of young stars and gas in Dorado and Mensa constellations, key for understanding irregular galaxy evolution. The next one here is a sharp image of interstellar comet 31/Atlas. Building on August data, September analyses refined the comet's composition, confirming it's an intact visitor from another star system, with Hubble's July 21st image providing the crispest view yet. Now here's the final 3 things that they found here in September. Includes the white dwarf eating a Pluto-like object on September 18th. Hubble observed a white dwarf, the remnant of a sun-like star, actively shredding and accreting a Pluto-sized body from its own Kuiper belt. Analog, a ring of icy debris, ultraviolet spectra revealed volatiles like water, ice, carbon, sulfur, and nitrogen in the debris disk, suggesting these objects can survive a star's red giant phase and later feed the remnant. This rare snacking event, 170 light years away, offers insights into planetary system evolution post-stellar death. Next one here is the stunning new views of Messier 82, the Cigar Galaxy. Released September 15th as Picture of the Week, Hubble pierced the dust of this starburst galaxy 12 million light years away to reveal brilliant young stars and intricate gas clouds fueling explosive star formation, 100 times faster than in the Milky Way. This image highlights the galaxy's heart, shaped by sculptural dust lanes, tying into broader studies of galactic cores. The last one here is the Aurora on Saturn. A September 20th video release showcased Hubble's captures of Saturn's dynamic auroras, glowing from solar wind interactions with the planet's magnetic field. Time for Saturn's opposition on September 21st, its closest approach to Earth. This adds to long-term monitoring of giant planet atmospheres. So hopefully y'all enjoyed that. And now here is what the telescopes will be doing here in October. James Webb Telescope in cycle 4 likely studying exoplanets, early galaxies, star formation, and black holes using infrared. Expect targets like distant quasars or TRAPPIST-1 atmospheres. Weekly schedules on that website right there. Hubble Telescope is going to be in cycle 32, focusing on UV optical observations, possibly supernovae, asteroids, or auroras. On Jupiter and Saturn, schedules are obviously on the STSCI's website, which is weekly. Cycle 33 starts in November, and both telescopes will be capturing deep space data, leveraging October's dark skies. Check out the NASA website for updates. So I know this video was a highly in-depth and long video, so hopefully y'all got a lot out of it. Basically what I'm expecting for the month of October is it's going to be unseasonably warm to start, and then we're going to be heading into a very cold pattern as we head towards the end of the month, which could result in some severe weather here in the central part of the country. As far as precipitation goes, I'm expecting the whole entire month to be dry here out east and out west, while the central part of the country is going to be wet, which could result in severe weather, but expect that to change as we head towards the end of the month, as it's looking like the central and eastern part of the country is going to start to dry out, while the western part of the country is going to be relatively wet and cool. So basically the western part of the country is going to be wet and cool for the month of October, while the eastern part of the country is going to be dry and warm to start, and then sort of dry and cool to end the month of October. So again, hopefully y'all got a lot out of this video. I know it's a long video, so again, like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate all y'all for watching. Until next time, never stop forecasting.